Hi, and welcome back to Forest Hill United Methodist Church's podcast, It Takes a Village. I am Reverend Mandy Neal, and today it's just me and Reverend Justin Snyder, and we're just going to chat about all that's been happening. So you may have noticed that we have taken a few weeks off from the podcast because we have been really busy. So we want to get you caught up on worship in Gibson Village. Like it's really coming together.
There have been so many things that have been happening over here.
Yeah. So let's just kind of start maybe by talking about the service and what the service looks like, and then we'll kind of get into all the things that we've done over the last few weeks. So tell us a little bit about the service.
Yeah, so we're really excited. We've been thinking about and kind of exploring what the service will look like, the order, how it feels when you walk into the space. And so we thought, well, one thing we could do to kind of, as we are talking about this, is be in the space today. So we are in our worship space over in Gibson. And so we're really excited for that. There's this like fun moment as we were setting up for the podcast today. And I thought, oh, I remember when we were at annual conference and we were doing the podcast and you were doing it with the bishop, and the backdrop was this backdrop.
Yeah, they were putting it up while we were talking.
Yeah. So just very neat things.
And
here we are in Gibson with this beautiful backdrop. But anyway, that's a tangent. So our worship service, we've been figuring out kind of the order and the flow. And so what we kind of settled on is we really want to be clear with everything. And so our worship service is very predictable. We want it to be something that people know what to expect when they walk into a space. We want them to know what they are signing up for when they enter the doors. And so for us, what that looks like is we will start worship with a welcome and establishing all the expectations that are there. So there'll be lots of explaining at the beginning of our worship, just so that people can be fully present, so that they know how they can be in the space. One of the things I think we've learned, and we hear from people, especially as we've been listening, is people always feel like they need permission to be their like full self in a space. And so just talking through that, like, what does it mean, like, if you get antsy to want to get up? Or do I have to hold my bladder for an hour before going to the bathroom if I'm in the middle of worship? And so we really want to just, like, lay all those things out there so that people know. So our expectations kind of establish how they can be present. And so along with that, we have some, like, really fun things that Dr. Rebecca Dyer has done with us, and we did some things around not just neurodiversity, but like just what people need in order to feel comfortable and focus. And so at all of our tables, we have these really cool buckets or kind of things of fidget toys and things, and like pads of paper. And so we'll explain, like, you know, when you're in your worship, if someone pulls out a pad of paper, our first thought as being church people is they are going to do what? Take notes. They're going to be writing down their sermon reflections and all these things. But when I get into a space and I see a pad of paper, the first thing I want to do is draw. And so thinking about, like,
the first thing I want to do is make my grocery list.
Yeah. So like we sit in these spaces, and sometimes we just need to be given permission to do those things. So like doodling is totally fine, because if you're doodling, your brain is getting focused. And it's also a thing that can calm you and allow you to be present. And so we want people to be able to do that. We want people to be able to pick up like little fidgets and just play with them. If there's somebody who gets nervous or needs something like that. So we kind of establish that in the very beginning. And our worship is going to be around tables. And so we'll have some chairs that are not at tables for those who aren't quite ready to be sitting close to people they may or may not know. But we want it to be around tables because we think that conversation is important. We think that sharing where we are in life and the things that are happening, or talking about like what we're hearing and experiencing in worship, how that's relevant to our life, and we can share that. So we want that to be there, but we also know some people, they're not comfortable with that. So they want to be in the space. Maybe they want to stand on the outside edges of the room against a wall, or maybe they have back problems and they want to stand up occasionally. So just establishing that there are many ways that you can be present in worship. And so we're going to do that. And then after we do our welcome, we're going to switch into kind of describing our theme for our series or whatever we're in, and leading straight into our scripture, which for Forest Hill 9 or 11 o'clock worship, that's a little different because we usually do it right before the sermon. And we talked about that, and you were talking about some of the ways like maybe we should do this different. So I guess for you, like, what do you think about that flip and putting the scripture at the very front?
Yeah, I think in part of our discussions about how we would do that, just being really upfront about what the theme is. So if you begin with understanding the scripture as the foundation for all the things that we're going to do in that time and space, in that worship service, then you get that before. Sometimes I think, when we're at 9 or 11, like you're almost halfway through the service before you actually know what the scripture is. And we were really intentional about picking music and picking the creed that all supports what's going to come, but we don't know what is actually coming until we kind of get the center of that scripture in our worship service. So putting it up front for me helps us set the stage a little sooner and helps put the music in a context of the scripture.
Yeah, I think it's a neat way to do it in this new format because of that reason. I don't know how many times I've sat through a service and then at the very last second, you realize like, oh, I think these things are connected, but I haven't been making those connections, or I'm not quite sure how we got here because I wasn't thinking about it. And people do, like, they try to really make things fit and try to make them resonate throughout. So I'm really excited for this kind of structure where we are putting our focus on our scripture and our theme and what we're going to be talking about at the very front. So not only do people know what to expect, but also they can start to make those connections too. As a worship service, we're going to pray. That it may look completely different in this service than other like worship services, but there are these things that are really important to us. And so prayer is going to be a part of it. We'll continue to do the Lord's Prayer. And so we'll have a time of prayer. We'll have some music at the front. It might be something secular. It might be something that is more church music. It could be something completely different. But I'm really excited for us to figure out kind of the ways that we can incorporate arts and music into our worship so that people can connect. One of the things with music is we understand that some people really like to sing and some people really hate it. And they're very aware when you're sitting next to someone that other people can hear their voice. So we want to do some things that are congregational singing, but also some things that are not. So we'll have a song at the beginning of worship. That's just a time to reflect.
Yeah, a little bit of a centering moment.
Like we've been told about what our scripture is, what our theme is, and if we can find those things that work really great, like we can think about it, kind of be mindful of our bodies and where we are, and just kind of get focused and prepared. And so I think that's really good. And like way pre-pandemic, like you had some of those moments in worship, like when we did offertory moments, we would pass the plate and like you'd have this kind of musical centering. But it's exciting to do that in a new way. And so we're going to be doing that. And then after we do music and our prayer, it will lead into, I think, the most exciting part of our worship service, which is this, we don't even know what we're calling it. Like, is it a panel? Is it a sermon? Is it a devotion? Is it a reflection centered around this talk that we're having? But it's essentially our sermon portion. So we did a preview service, and it was really good to like take breaks in the middle of the sermon and just kind of breathe and think, what does this mean for me? How does this part of this sermon resonate? Or maybe there's someone at my table who has this really great story that they are just thinking about as they're hearing that. So I'm excited for that. It might be that we have a panel discussion at times. So when we did our preview, we were talking about like God's story, our story, and all these kind of things. And so it was really cool to like take those moments. And as we were talking about one, you just kind of like drop the question into the room, and you said like, what's a good story that holds value to you? And so I thought that was a really great thing. So we're excited for that too.
I can tell you're very excited.
It's so good. It's so good. I think it's just different. If I was to take a step into like, nerdy church kind of stuff, it resonates, I think, with me because of that idea of like small group of doing these, not necessarily like John Wesley accountability groups, but this just way of application of what we're hearing and talking about that. I think so much we finish worship and we head out the door and try to figure out the restaurant we're going to, or who's cooking. And we don't really sit in what we've just kind of absorbed. So I think that's really neat. So I'm excited for that. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, or it's different. You've been preaching for so long. This is such a different way of doing it.
Yeah, so in thinking about the preview service and just kind of the feedback that we got from it, there was somebody at my table and I was like, tell me what you think. And they were like, well, it's really interesting and wonderful. It's a mix between worship and small group. And they said, I really enjoyed getting to share that time around the table.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at I was sitting at a table where there were some people who did not know each other. And, they began to like make some connections. And so that was really great. And I think that really nurtures community. So I would say that I do think it is somewhere between a worship service and a small group, but it's absolutely worshipful, but also it adds in that community piece, which is the heart of what we are doing at Gibson. I was telling somebody today that came to visit, just like the thing that we are centering on is community. Like everything we do here is centered on community, including the worship. So I think that's just a beautiful thing that God is developing to really be community centered, even in the way that we worship together.
Yeah. And kind of thinking about our worship and kind of like the end of it, like we'll end with a song that's congregational. And then like we'll share our announcements at the end, which is kind of different. But they're more like announcements of like, how can we be this community that we hope to be? But thinking about that importance of community, I think it's really neat that in this service, like we want our children to be in here. Like we want them to be a part of it. It's okay if they're at the tables and they're not paying attention to a thing. Or if they have their like toys and they're like doing all this, like it's really fun to watch kind of the way people are just connecting with each other. But we'll have space for children if they want a table. We have this wonderful big little library of books and some toys and things that they can just be themselves in the space. So community is really important, and that's for the most mature of us, whether that's age or maturity level, all the way to the least. So I'm very excited for those parts of it.
So it was fun to practice. So today is Wednesday, so we're really in the countdown to Sunday, but not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, so a week and a half ago. We did our practice launch, our internal preview service, and we got a lot of great feedback. Do you want to share anything about like what we learned from that experience?
I always say I love feedback. I also hate to get it. So like it's really important. I like want to know what we can do or how we can do things different. But I also know that that's like sometimes that rubs against what you're doing. But so we heard some feedback afterwards, and I was really excited for the things that I was hearing. So they were telling not just the things that we would want to maybe work on or address, but also the things that they really liked and valued. Some of the things we're working on and that we've been told, most of them were really logistics. So we got to kind of figure out those things. Logistics in terms of, I was sitting at this table, but I couldn't quite see the words on the TV for the discussion. Or this was really nice, but maybe if we had some chairs over in this area, that would be a great addition. So logistical things. And then there were some things that people said, and I thought, yep, that was on my to-do list. I just forgot about it. And so I'm excited to kind of address some of those things. And we know it's going to keep changing and evolving as we go in terms of setup and layout and all of those kind of things. But we really do value the things that people have to say, because if you're a part of something and you're engaging in it, we want it to be meaningful, that you can not only be excited about it, but carry that to others, but also like be fully present for all that it has to offer in that time.
So those are just a few of the pieces that we've done. Some other things that we have done is last night we sat in the space and we prayed for the space, and we prayed over the altar and the candles and the cross and the communion set. And we just really spent some time in prayer for not only the space, but the people who will come here. And that was it was moving. It was a beautiful time. That's not the first time that we've sat in this space with our prayer team and prayed, but it was a wonderful moment. And Dory put a lot of work in that. We've interviewed her to talk about prayer, and she's been our prayer team leader. And it was just a beautiful moment.
Yeah, we have some really wonderful people who are deeply connected to what's happening here, not only personally or as a part of the community, but spiritually. And I think it's just been incredible. I was talking with Dory, this is probably a month ago, and she called you and she called me, and she was just telling about how she just got so inspired as she's a part of this prayer team. And she was telling us about this service that she wrote. And she wrote it like a month ago. She was like, it just started flowing, and she just went with it. And she was telling me about it. And I thought it was really, it just came at the right time, because as one of my kind of spiritual disciplines as we prepare to do this thing, I thought, wouldn't it be great if I just read through the entire Bible over the summer and kind of prepare, center myself. And as I did that, I thought I always start at the beginning and I run out of steam really quick. So I said, I'm going to start at the back. I'm going to work to the very beginning. So I did Old and New and work backwards. So I ended with Matthew and then all the way to Genesis. And so I was really close to finishing. And I was in the doldrums of the second half of the Pentateuch. So I was doing the Exodus and Leviticus, and they're talking about setting up the tent, and they're talking about all these different items, and this is for this, and it's made this way, or it's built this way, and you must have this many things at this measurement apart. And it's one of those things that when you read it, you tend to kind of want to rush through it, because we're just reading measurements or whatever. And as I was reading that, then Dory is telling me about this prayer service that she's wrote. And she's like, and we're going to pray for, like you said, the communion set. We're going to pray for the walls. We're going to pray for the tables and the chairs. And as she was telling me this, it just resonated with this scripture about how important it is that we're intentional about our worship space. And how all these things do really come together, and they hold importance and value. And so it was really meaningful this week when we did our prayer service to just sit and to pray over those things, which in my head was hilarious, because I just don't like that part of the scripture. And I would read it and go, oh, let's move on. And then we were in this space and I'm like, no, this is really important. So we're excited for the things that our prayer team has done, the ways that we are spiritually preparing our hearts in the space and things like that.
Yeah, and just to worship in the space. I mean, I think that over the last few months, the space has become holy space for me. Before it was a gym, or it was, just something that we were doing. But now, I think the art has an incredible way of making it holy space. But then blessing all the elements and blessing the altar and seeing that in a new way, I think is really bringing a new life and a vibrance to the space that I'm excited about.
Yeah. And I think on the logistical end of all of that, we're rushing to think, what are the things we don't have? We have them all in our other spaces, but we need them here. We need some kind of communion trays. And so as things have kind of been acquired and we bring them here, you look at it and it's no longer just some Amazon purchase, but it's this is something important. And it's important for this space and the people who will be here. And so it's just been a really exciting and holy time in the transformation of what this space is, and these seemingly insignificant little objects, the way they start to have value and shape what we're doing.
And the community that's formed in that praying, after it was over, there was somebody who was talking to us and just said, I want to sing you this song that I've never sang outside of one particular person in my family, and shared the story. And it was just a really beautiful, holy moment. And it reminds me that God is at work in this in ways that we don't even know. And then the person was like, you need to go and read Hebrews 11. I was like, okay, I know Hebrews 11. But I went home last night and read Hebrews 11. And just that sharing of scripture, even if we've read it so many times that, we know what that chapter in the Bible is, but to encourage one another to, find places in the scripture that bless our hearts, I think is a really beautiful moment. There are just all these little beautiful moments that are happening.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're almost there. I know like not all the puzzle pieces are perfectly in their spot. And you know, everyone says this is a process. It will take time. It will shape. The people who come will help shape it. And so I'm trying to hold on to all of that too, and like the faithfulness that, you know, it's easy to say, but to live out is a challenge. But I am really excited about it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question you didn't know I was going to ask.
Oh boy.
So I was thinking as I was talking, those were moments last night that were really places where God has showed up for me in this week. And
Mm-hmm.
so where has God showed up for you in this week?
I think you were talking about the prayer service, and we're like gathering in this space. And we had this scripted service. We kind of concluded, and people were like, we're not done yet. Like, I am going to tell you about these good things that are happening in my life. And so there were several people who were just sharing these like praise and joys that they were having. And they wanted to share that with a faith community, and to sit in this space and to have these people who said, I know we're done, but like there are some really good things I just have to bear witness to. That was wonderful. It was great to hear. It was stories about their life, or people that are important to them, or people who are outside of their life that they just,
or people who are in our community of faith that they have come to know and love and take and care for.
Yeah. So I think that was, as you were saying, like the space has transformed. Like just sitting in that moment, you could experience that. It was really good. It was holy. And while my brain was thinking, all right, we're all in a circle and we're done, so we're going to go. I don't know how to exit the circle. That moment was completely changed just because these people had these things that were so important to bear witness to. So,
yeah, I think that's awesome. So what else do you want to tell us? What have we forgotten to say?
Oh gosh.
Come to worship.
Come to worship. So
Sunday, September the 7th is our first Sunday, in case you're watching this later.
Yeah.
Sunday, 5 p.m., all Sundays from here on out at 5 p.m.
Yeah, we're really excited. We have so many wonderful people who have been part of this, who we were doing something earlier today in the office, and I get a text and they're like, hey, I'm trimming some tree branches because I just like thought about the front of the building and I would love for it to look a little better. And so there are just so many people who are excited for this, who are coming alongside, using their gifts, their vision to transform what's happening here. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for all these other things that people are doing and the things that they bring with them that call us forward in ways that perhaps we don't anticipate. So we do hope you would come to worship. It's every week, 5 o'clock. We've got some wonderful branding and kind of banners on our property. We have some pictures that have already been hung in our space in addition to this. And so it's just really coming alive. And the thing I would say that I think is really important is if you're already a part of Forest Hill and you haven't been down here and you haven't been a part of any of this, you got to check it out. It won't be on Facebook Live because it's got to be personal. And if things are happening at tables for half of worship, that's going to be a pretty boring live stream because we're not going to zoom in and go, what are y'all talking about? But I think it's really important to come and check it out. Talk to people who are here, understand what's happening so that you can invite it to other people who are looking for a place to build community, to explore their faith, and who've maybe tried church, maybe they've tried Forest Hill, but they haven't found the thing that fits best for them at this point in their life. And so I'm excited for that. I'm excited for who will come.
Yeah. So just in thinking about all that has happened and transpired, I know that when I started last fall with my sticky note on my desk, I didn't know how this would come together. I didn't know how it would be supported and all of those things. And now sitting in a space, like I say over and over again, I do not feel alone. The church has really rallied around this and really brought so many things to it. And it's just amazing to see what we do together. It's not one person's vision or one person's way of doing it, but it's prayed over and it's been a journey and a journey that we've been able to do together. And for that, I am immensely grateful.
Yeah.
So join us. We'll see you Sunday at 5 p.m. here in Gibson Village for worship.